Welcome to the wonderful world of elasticity. Part 2, extreme elasticity and the demand curve. Alright, so in this short video, what do extremely elastic or extremely inelastic demand curves look like? Does an elasticity change along a demand curve? Yes. And why isn't it constant? So, let's estimate some elasticities. Based on evidence, it looks like there's some things that have kind of low price sensitivity. Gasoline, soda, college, business airline travel. Think about what those goods have in common compared to the higher elasticity: housing, college, airline travel, Coke, Pepsi. The Coke and Pepsi number, be sure you know how to read an elasticity number. 3.3 here simply means that for every 1% change in price, quantity demanded changes by 3.3 times that much. So what can we use this kind of information for? Well, if you're Coke and Pepsi, you might want this information to know how consumers will respond to a price change that you have in the planning. So let's clarify exactly what we mean by elastic and inelastic. If the absolute value of the price elasticity of demand is less than 1, it means the numerator is smaller than the denominator, and the numerator is percent change quantity demanded over percent change price. So it means that the quantity change is not as large as the price change. Conversely, if the absolute value of elasticity is greater than 1, the demand curve is elastic, meaning response in quantity is larger than the change in price. So people are kind of pretty sensitive. And there's a special case where absolute value of elasticity is exactly 1, and that means for every 1% change in price, there's exactly a 1% decline in quantity or change in quantity. So let's look at some examples. If you were to be bit by a rattlesnake, for instance, and you need a dose of antivenom, how sensitive are you to price? A sane person is going to say probably not very sensitive. So you need one snake venom, please. No matter if it's $2, $3, $50, you're probably going to not change your quantity demanded of snake venom. So obviously an extreme case, an extreme example, but that's what a demand curve would look like, right? No matter what the change in price, there's zero change in quantity demanded. So perfectly inelastic demand curve has zero quantity change whenever the price changes. And it has a vertical slope. Now, at the other extreme, you can have good with a price elasticity of demand of infinity. And that could be like the price of pink tennis balls, and you don't care what color they are, for instance. There's a lot of other colors you could play with. And so the price is $5, you'll buy however many you need. But if the price goes up for pink tennis balls, are you very interested in pink tennis balls anymore when there are cheaper green tennis balls out there? Heck no. So you go out and buy green tennis balls instead, and basically at any price above 5, your demand for pink tennis balls drops to 0. So it's very rare, very extreme, but here's what a perfectly elastic demand curve looks like. And these tend to be goods with a lot of substitutes, a lot of ways for people to be like, I don't really care about this. I'll just go buy this other thing that's almost exactly the same. So again, that's a very extreme case. Okay, and a unit elastic demand, that elasticity of demand that's exactly 1, what does that look like? That would be a 20% increase in price brings with it, exactly a 20% drop in quantity demanded, or vice versa, right? Drop in price generates exactly the same in percent change of quantity. Marijuana in the early research was discovered to have about unitary elasticity. Of course, it depends on the person, it depends on over time, etc. But generally speaking, this is what it looks like. So, those are the extreme cases. What about the in-between cases? Here's a relatively inelastic demand. It's not perfectly inelastic. There is a quantity response, nor is it perfectly elastic, where the quantity response is infinite, but rather it's this semi-inelastic situation where a 20% increase in price makes people reduce their consumption of the good by about 10%. So they're, relatively speaking, they're not that sensitive to price. And on any of these, if you want to stop, pause, and run the numbers, it's good practice, right? So in the case of a 20% increase in price that yields a larger than 20% change in quantity demanded, you'd be looking at what we call a relatively elastic demand curve. So it's worth thinking about what kinds of goods usually have a much higher elasticity. And we've already discussed that goods with a lot of substitutes are probably in that boat. Maybe goods that are pretty cheap, so you don't care so much about the price. So there's a whole list of factors that influence the elasticity, which we'll look at in a different video.